Stunning announcement this morning. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife have been captured by the U.S. military. Today, President Trump says the U.S. will now run Venezuela. Thanks for joining us on WHAS11 at 6:30. I'm Jose Alonso. Alex has the night off. The president releasing this image of Maduro behind me, showing how now former Venezuelan president wearing a tracksuit and a blindfold on his way to the U.S. to face prosecution. Multiple explosions and low-flying aircrafts were heard around 2 a.m. local time in the Venezuelan capital in the city of Caracas. President Trump calls this a successful large-scale strike for weeks now. The U.S. has been ramping up pressure on Maduro, seizing 2 oil tankers and deadly military strikes on alleged drug boat smugglers. He wrote on Truth Social that Maduro and his wife have been removed from the country. 2 sources say they were dragged from their bedroom by U.S. forces. Trump later told Fox News the 2 were aboard the USS Iwo Jima, heading to New York.
Maduro and Flores have been indicted in the Southern District of New York. It's Jay Clayton for their campaign of deadly narco-terrorism against the United States and its citizens.
Attorney General Pam Bondi announced on social media that Maduro will face American justice on American soil. The Justice Department alleges Maduro and his allies have turned Venezuelan institutions into a hotbed of drug trafficking-fueled corruption for their own benefit. And right now, protests across the globe unfolding as the news of Maduro's capture develops here. And you can see video from protests worldwide, some in Washington, D.C. and New York City, as well as from countries of Colombia and Italy. People marching in staunch opposition to the U.S. involvement in the impending regime change.
Venezuela isn't yours! Venezuela isn't yours! Venezuela isn't yours!
A protest also taking place in Louisville this evening. The Party for Socialism and Liberation gathered at the intersection of Baxter and Highland Avenues to speak out against President Trump's actions.
President Trump this morning got on TV and said that the U.S. wants to run Venezuela. And to that we say, you know, President Trump, why don't you run your own country? You know, we have people in the streets here starving every night, people that will tonight die of cold in this country, and we do nothing about it.
As some Louisvillians speak against this action, a group of Venezuelan Americans are celebrating the liberation of their home country. WHAS 11's Clarice Shaley and photojournalist Connie Offit tell us why they're rejoicing.
Louisville's Central and Southern American community coming together in one room.
See, you see what happened last night. There's something everybody in the world from Venezuela is waiting.
The Venezuelan community celebrates the capture of President Nicolas Maduro, seeing it as a liberation of their people.
This moment for Venezuelans is a sign, it signals.
By their side are members of the Cuban community who've long been under a dictatorship.
Something that I hope we can do as well.
Supporting their Venezuelan neighbors as they wait for their turn. Professor of Global Leadership for Spalding University, Dr. Kurt Jefferson, says sanctioning and removing of Maduro has been an interest of a few American administrations.
Trump, remember, is about making deals, and he's about business first, even though he's using heavy force to achieve these ends. I think he would probably pause before doing something trying to inflame any situations in the region. When
it comes to President Trump's words on not being afraid to put boots on the ground, Jefferson thinks that's not likely to happen soon. Clarice Shaley, WHAS 11 on your side.
Dr. Jefferson adds he believes this action has put the United States back in the politics on this side of the world and will result in an interesting year as we start 2026. Hear more tonight on The Night Team. And the Trump administration says it didn't inform Congress of today's operation for fear of information leaking. This provoked mixed reaction from Kentucky's representatives. Democratic Congressman Morgan McGarvey was in our studio earlier today, where we discussed the constitutionality of the strikes on Venezuela.
I mean, Nicolas Maduro is a monster, and everything from drug trafficking to torture to disappearing people. There's no debating that fact. But, you know, Donald Trump has showed us time and time again, he doesn't care about democracy or civil rights at home, much less in the world abroad. What he said at the podium today is that we are going in and we're going to take over Venezuela and we're going to put the oil companies back in. Didn't have the authority to do it, and I don't think there's any appetite from Americans, from any of us, to fight another prolonged, protracted war over oil.
McGarvey added that once Congress begins their second session this coming week, he expects a push for greater transparency and accountability. And Representative Andy Barr, however, is in favor of Maduro's apprehension. He wrote on X, in part, critics of President Trump's actions in Venezuela should be ashamed. Far from violating international law, President Trump is enforcing the law with his action in Venezuela. Americans everywhere should celebrate that President Trump has restored international order and further deterred our enemies. And Representative Thomas Massie is questioning the constitutionality of Maduro's capture. His statement on X came earlier this morning, saying, quote, "If this action were constitutionally sound, the Attorney General wouldn't be tweeting that they've arrested the president of a sovereign country and his wife for possessing guns in violation of a 1934 U.S. firearm law." And Kentucky's Attorney General Russell Coleman sent out a message of support earlier today, saying, quote, "We must cut off the flow of fentanyl and send a powerful message to the Mexican cartels. The president's actions in Venezuela showed needed strength in this fight. We are grateful to the U.S. Armed Forces and federal law enforcement who continue to protect Kentucky and our nation." Now, as this story continues to develop, we will make sure to keep you updated both on air and online with all the details. The best way for you to stay informed is to go to our website, that's WHAS11.com, or download our free WHAS11 app. Honoring an Orange County Sheriff's deputy a year after being shot in the line of duty. Today, the Orange County, Indiana Sheriff's Office held a prayer vigil for Deputy Zach Andre to allow community members to thank him for his service. You may remember Deputy Andre's story. He was shot multiple times a year ago today in Baden Springs, Indiana. Deputy Andre pulled over in the early morning hours to help what he believed was a stranded vehicle on the side of the road. Instead, while talking with the driver, that's 33-year-old Austin Shephers, the deputy was shot 4 times, including once in the head. Andre was airlifted to the University of Louisville's medical district, where he spent nearly 100 days recovering. Today, Sheriff Davey Henderson says about 150 to 200 people showed up at Springs Valley Schools in French Lick to hold a prayer vigil for him and his family. A number of LMPD officers were also in attendance. Now, Sheriff Henderson shared a statement with WHAS11 tonight saying, quote, "We are so appreciative of our community and the way they have supported Zach."